Hello, my name is Nancy Navarro, Council Member for District 4, and you're watching County Cable Montgomery.
Hey there, Eric Friedman here. Welcome to another episode of Consumer Compass. As the Director of the Office of Consumer Protection, my job is to oversee an agency with 16 investigators and administrators. They in turn help Montgomery County residents solve all sorts of consumer problems and complaints.
How are you doing? Good. How's it going?
Everything from tracking down a bogus bank statement to getting a car towed, our staff will help you understand it, contact the people to find the information you need, and hopefully resolve it. If we can't resolve it, it's usually because it involves an issue that's a federal crime and our office doesn't have jurisdiction. But we can direct you to the correct agency.
You know, we figured, alright, what can you do? But,
We also conduct public outreach and education. This show is part of that mission to teach consumers about their rights. We began the show only 2 years ago, but in that short time have produced dozens of segments. But it hasn't always been easy.
Glad to have you.
Well, just so our viewers understand. Thanks, Sue. Another feature on our website is the consumer protection. We've taken our consumer message on the road to local malls
or it's been out of service for 30 days.
and senior centers,
The Do Not Call registry is a way
but also held court right here at Consumer Protection. Somehow, our videographer makes a standard issue government office look pretty good, don't you think? So for this show, we've decided to put together a few of our past segments that resonated with the viewers. Here we go. Hey Jim, thanks for joining us on Consumer Compass. You know, we're very fortunate to have you as an automotive expert in our office, and I know you get all the technical questions. So I was hoping you can give us the jump start on how to prepare our cars for winter.
Sure. Well, the first place to start, because it's the most problematic, is the battery. Most batteries will do fine through the summer, but when they're really challenged in the winter is when you'll have difficulty. What you want to look for is around the battery terminals. Make sure that you don't have corrosion on either side. If you do, you can clean that with a mixture of baking soda and water. Just make sure that you rinse it very, very thoroughly because it is acid. And you want to make sure that you rinse it off of all of the body panels too. You might also invest in some gloves. Even the Playtex rubber gloves that you get for cleaning the house are fine, but the acid on your skin is not a good combination either. The other thing you want to make sure of is that the battery is still within its service life, generally 4 to 5 years. If you have a 6 or 7 year old battery, you're probably expecting trouble this season. Most retail facilities that sell batteries will be happy to test yours for you free. So take advantage of that, and it's not just dealerships, it's anybody that sells batteries.
That's good to know. There's nothing worse than breaking down the highway. Once you're under the hood, what's the next thing you're going to look for after the battery?
Well, the next thing that you want to make sure you take very careful note of is your engine oil. You want to make sure that it's clean, it's been changed per the interval. You want to make sure that you look at your owner's manual. Most oil is either going to be an orange or a red dipstick, and you want to just give it a good wipe. Make sure the engine's been sitting still for more than 5 minutes, and as you can see, this level is probably about a quart low. It's also a little dirty, so she might want to think about getting an oil change here very quickly.
I guess the oil is kind of like the lifeblood of the engine, isn't it?
Absolutely. And while you're thinking of what to put in your crankcase, There are a lot of very, very good synthetic oils out there, some of which have molecules that will attach to the internal engine components and actually ease the friction and help with enhanced engine life. Many cars are run 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 miles these days, and synthetic oil is one of the things that has helped that to happen. Again, you want to check your owner's manual for the proper oil change interval for your car and not just go with the every 3,000 miles that a lot of people still believe. That was before the increases in engine technology and oil technology, and to change every 3,000 miles is to just put a lot of used oil and used oil filters into our landfills, which we really don't need.
Okay, now I guess it gets pretty hot in this engine, huh?
Yes, it does, even in the wintertime. The thermostat is a very good idea to make sure that you take a look at. Very difficult for you and I to test, but a professional can do that by putting different equipment on here that'll tell them how hot the engine is running. What you can do when your engine's cold is simply feel your hoses and just make sure that they're still soft and pliable. You'll see a couple going back to the heater and of course the main ones here at the radiator. If they're very hard, very stiff, that's going to be an indication that they're ready to go, and they will go at the absolute worst opportune time, such as on 270 or the middle of the beltway in rush hour traffic. The next thing you want to take a look at is your coolant. And we have a very stubborn little cap on this coolant jar. But again, with the engine cold, you'd simply open it, make sure that you can see some level of coolant in there. Most cars have an indicator on the side of the tank. Do not do this when the engine's warm because you will have it blow up in your face, and hot coolant is not comfortable. Finally, while we're under the hood, the next thing you want to take a look at is your windshield washer solvent. In this case, the washer solvent has a little umbrella looking symbol on it. Most cars built in the last 10 years have some kind of an indicator like that. They haven't quite gotten to a universal language, but this one with the little umbrella is a pretty good hint. You want to make sure that you can see washer solvent in there. In this dark bottle, it's very difficult. But the thing you also want to make sure that you do is make sure that you put in a winter mix. Most windshield washer fluid that you buy is pre-mixed for the winter. You just don't dilute it when you put it in. Summertime you can dilute it a little bit, winter you don't want to.
Now I know, Jim, we want to keep the rain and snow off the windshield.
Right, and critical to doing that are the windshield wiper blades. You want to just take a look and make sure that they're soft and pliable. The other thing to keep in mind is when you're driving and there's a lot of road salt out there, when you get home, take a clean cloth with some Windex and wipe that salt off of the wiper blades so that it doesn't precipitate a little more deterioration than you really need. Again, you want to make sure that the blades are all in one piece. And if we take a look, this particular car has wipers on the headlights. And this is what a bad wiper blade looks like, where it's separating. And these won't do her any good whatsoever if she starts them up. In fact, that could even damage her headlights. So we don't want to use those. We want to get those replaced. Okay. Next thing we take a look at is the tires. On this particular tire, we have a lot of wear on the outside edges. The car probably needs a front end alignment, but you'll also see this cracking starting right here. It's going to be very quickly that we're going to have the steel cords of the tire showing through, and that will lead to a tire failure and a shredded tire on the side of the road, probably at rush hour. Next, you want to get a tire gauge. They're not expensive. You can get them at most auto stores. And once a month, you want to walk around the car and check your tire pressure. To find out how much the tire should have, the inside driver's door has a little placard on just about every car, and it tells you how much pressure should be in the tires. So you want to make sure that you keep them completely inflated. Years ago, there was an old wives' tale that when the weather gets bad, lower the tire pressure. Not anymore. Tires today are built to run at their stated tire pressure. Don't lower them just because the weather gets bad. And finally, it's a good idea to think about what you have in the gas tank. In the winter, particularly if it's going to be a very, very cold snap, you want to try to keep at least a half a tank of fuel in there. That minimizes the condensation that builds up in the fuel tank and minimizes your chances of having your fuel freeze. If we get into weather that's going to be consistently below about 15 degrees, you might want to consider fuel line de-icer. Just make sure that you get it for gasoline or diesel, depending on what kind of fuel your vehicle uses.
Okay, well that's great advice for keeping us on the road. Do you have any recommendations for what we should keep inside the car in case of an emergency?
It's a great idea, particularly in the winter, to carry, for example, a blanket, a bottle or two of water, and maybe some granola bars, something that won't go bad, that if you get stuck in traffic for several hours, you've got a little bit of something to eat so that you don't starve to death waiting for the road to free up and go on.
Okay, that's
All
great
right.
advice. I know consumers will be calling you in case they have a problem.
All righty, take care.
What sparked the idea for this forum was a recent Washington Post article that reported 18 to 24-year-olds are most at risk for identity theft. I think most people assume senior citizens are victimized, but it turns out not to be true. Let's begin with some facts from the Washington Post article. According to a study of 5,000 people nationwide, last year there were an estimated 11 million identity fraud victims of all ages, and thieves stole about $54 billion from them. But it turns out that young people are hit the hardest. The identity theft was connected to bank accounts, social security numbers, and other personal information. So, Mr. Friedman, can you give us some advice? Does this mean we should stop using our credit cards, Facebook accounts, stop buying things online? How dangerous is it out there in the virtual world?
Thanks, Christy. Look, you guys are the new consumers in Montgomery County. Now the trick is you don't want to be the new victims because as we all know, there are unscrupulous merchants and there are con artists out there looking for exactly that, new victims. So you as a group, 18 to 24 years old, are going to be bombarded with all sorts of problems. Old scams never die. They just go high tech. So it used to be when someone stole money from you, they had to physically take the wallet out of your pocket. But now they can steal your numbers through computers, through cell phones. So we have to be aware of this and just be cautious when we're giving out our numbers, when we're online or when we're using a cell phone. And according to the article and study, the biggest problem is that people in this age group don't check their checking account, don't check their bank records as frequently as older consumers do. And so you don't detect the problem soon enough. So crooks know that if they steal your identity, steal your credit card numbers, that they may have 131 days before you even report it to the bank. With older people, they may detect it sooner. So that seems to be the biggest problem with identity theft, which is the #1 problem in America, according to the Federal Trade Commission.
Good point. Now let's go to our first question.
I'm currently looking for a job, and as you know, it's very difficult to find one in this economic environment. Recently, I've been getting this work-at-home solicitations. Are they all scams, or can I actually make some money from them?
Well, Will, you're not alone. Many people in today's market are trying to find new ways to make money. Unfortunately, most of the work-at-home plans and advertisements are in fact a scam. Now they come in different kinds of flavors. They might have you stuff envelopes at home or assemble products at home, or it might be a mystery shopping type organization, or they may have you buy supplies and then have you sell them in the future. But for the most part, they sound too good to be true, because the truth is, if I could stay home and make $3,000 a week stuffing envelopes, I might do that rather than work in the Consumer Protection Office. But what we have found is that consumers are sometimes susceptible to these types of plans because they really want to try and make some money. Now I can tell you, in Maryland, it's illegal for them to charge money up front for any of these programs. So that's really a red flag. If the company says they want you to buy products up front, or if they tell you they want you to send them money and then they'll send you some information about how to start a work-at-home program, that is telling you that they're doing something illegally from the get-go, and you really want to stay away from a program like that.
Great. Now let's take a question from the public.
I'm thinking about buying a new car, but I'm worried about financing it. Any suggestions?
Well, purchasing a car may be the biggest purchase you make right now. And whether you purchase a used vehicle or a new car, the truth is, if you don't do some homework, you run the risk of being ripped off. So that you really have to do some legwork and figure out prices and comparison shop. Now, there are two big things you want to consider when buying a used car or a new car. #1, if you're buying a used vehicle, you want to have it checked out by a mechanic who knows what he or she is looking at. Second big issue is financing. If you can't pay cash for the vehicle, the seller may want to sell you some type of financing. You're probably better off getting a loan from a bank or a credit union than having a car dealer sell you both a car and financing.
Here's an email I got from Shafali Vyas, who is a graduate student at American University here in DC. I'm from Toronto and was looking on Craigslist for housing in the DC area. I found this great apartment and responded to the ad. The man who listed it said his daughter had the apartment, but they had to give it up because she got sick. He said he was from England. It had great pictures and the address of a legitimate building in D.C. We exchanged emails a lot, and he wanted personal information for the background check and also for me to wire him the money for the deposit. I finally showed it to my boyfriend's mom, and she said it was a scam.
Well, that sounds very similar to the kinds of complaints we have received in our office. Two things. Again, when you're looking online, you've got to be very suspicious as to the information that's there and the questions that are being asked. Many times, there'll be advertisements online that really are just a trick to get information from you. They want to find out personal information like your name, your address, social security number, zip code, things of that sort. And it might be a job offer. They may be offering to employ you and asking you for information, or they might use an apartment rental as the way to do that. So we just all have to be very careful and be very suspicious of these kinds of requests that are out there, and really don't give personal information on the phone, through the internet, online, because you don't always know who's on the other end of that computer.
I don't have a credit card. Everybody tells me I should get one just to help build my credit. What do you advise?
Okay, so when you're starting out, you do need to establish a credit history before you can eventually apply for a loan. One way to do that is to get a credit card, but you have to be very careful, because if you can't make the payments on that credit card, you're going to get a negative credit history, and that's probably worse than having no credit history at all.
And here we have another question.
Hey Eric, my question's about student loans. I currently have about $100,000 in student loan debt, and I currently have them on forbearance, but I'm only allowed to have them on forbearance for 6 months. What happens when my forbearance is up and I cannot pay my student loans?
Wow, Heather, that sounds like a real problem, and I'm afraid that robbing a bank is probably not an option. Student loans are very complicated. There are different types of student loans, private loans, federal loans, different kinds of federal loans, and there's not a whole lot that our office can do to help you with a situation like that, but we can put you in touch with the right people. The National Consumer Law Center is a private nonprofit organization right here in Washington, D.C. that helps people with student loan problems. And they will take you through a step-by-step process to try and figure out what options you have, whether even bankruptcy is an option or not an option, if there's some way you can bring down the payments, and you can work with them or a reputable credit counselor to try and work out a problem like that. And Heather, you're not alone. Many people in your age group went to school, took out loans in reliance upon the thought that they would get a high-paying job as soon as they graduated. The problem is the market dried up. They can't get a good job. They can't get a job that pays them enough money to pay off their loan, and they're stuck in the predicament that you described. In fact, we even had people who went to vocational schools and paid money to the school through a loan program. The school went out of business. They didn't even get the education, didn't get the degree, but they were still stuck paying the bill.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for one final question.
Hey Eric, I received a bill from a debt collection agency saying that I owe Verizon $43. I'm positive I don't. I did have an account with them a little less than a year ago, but I'm positive that it was all paid off. And I actually called Verizon and they informed me that I don't owe them any money. What should I do about a situation like this?
Well, first of all, you should probably get a prize for being a smart consumer and not assuming that the bill you received was an accurate bill when in fact it may in fact be a phony one, is what you're saying, and calling Verizon to find out whether or not you actually owe them the money. It sounds like you received an outright scam from a company that purports to be a collection agency that probably obtained your name from some mechanism. Who knows how? Maybe they were dumpster diving and got records, old records from Verizon or whatever, and they send out these supposed bills to a lot of consumers hoping that some of them will not be as smart as you and just go ahead and pay it and think, well, I must have incurred that debt but don't remember. So I would applaud you for doing some research and checking it. I would encourage you to file a copy with our office so we can look into it. Maybe that there are other people out there we can get an alert out to consumers. But it sounds like you were almost the victim of some collection scam, but luckily you were smart enough to stop it in its tracks.
Thanks. I think we got a lot of great information. Panelists, I want to thank you for coming and taking the time to be here. People out there, thank you very much for your questions. And Mr. Friedman, thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Hi, I'm Investigator Doug Numbers with the Montgomery County Office of Consumer Protection. We're here today to talk about towing. There are 4 different types of tows that occur in the county most commonly. Breakdown tows, consumer requested, your car breaks down on the highway or on the road and you need a tow truck. There's what's known as police tows. Again, if your car breaks down or you have some incident with the police, they will have your vehicle towed away. Also, rush hour tows. If your car is parked on a street somewhere in the county during rush hour, that can be towed away because you're impeding the flow of traffic. Also, there's what's known as trespass towing, where you parked on private property and your car has been towed away because you were there without permission. Hey, we did that to show you how quickly your car can be towed. Now our tow truck person is coming back. Our friend Rick Chambers here has agreed to talk to us about towing. He is one of 60 licensed tow companies in the county that we as the Office of Consumer Protection license to do towing. And Rick's going to talk to us today about the various types of tows he does. Thanks for being here, Rick.
Hi, Doug.
Rick, you're a tow company. You're licensed in this county to tow cars.
Correct.
What types of tows do you do?
We do police-generated tows, consumer-generated tows.
Like my car breaks down and I call you and say, Rick, come get me?
Got to go to the shop, get my car repaired.
Gotcha.
We do work for motor clubs.
Okay, with
also
AAA.
AAA, Geico.
Okay.
We also do private property trespass towing.
Okay, which basically means what?
Which means somebody owns a property, a commercial property, and they have a towing company under contract to help them manage their parking lot and any issues they have in their parking lot.
Okay.
Such as people parking on their lot and leaving, going somewhere else, taking up the spot that they need for their retail customers.
Okay, and also you can have, say, like apartment complexes could have like permit parking, things like that.
Apartment complexes have permit parking to make sure that everybody who is parking there is under lease.
Okay.
And there's not subletting and that sort of thing going on.
Okay, and as you know, I know, you're regulated by my office.
Correct.
We regulate trespass towing. What do we require you to do in order to let people know that trespass towing is going to occur on a property?
We have to have proper signage.
Okay.
We also have to have a written legal contract with the property owner.
Okay.
We have to have authorization to remove each and every car from the property in a signed form.
Okay, gotcha.
And then we also have to have the correct licensing
right.
through you.
And insurance.
Insurance. We also have to have a correct storage facility with a use and occupancy permit, correct signage there. Also make sure that somebody is on call and available to release cars that have been towed.
Let's talk a little more about trespass towing, Rick. People park on private property. Well, let's give people the idea, what is private property?
Private property is your local shopping mall, your apartment complex, strip shopping center, a place of business with a parking lot attached to it. It's all private property.
Well, Rick, thank you. I appreciate you being
problem,
here
Doug.
and doing this with us.
I'll put your car down.
Oh, please. You know, I don't imagine the paperwork I'd have to do if I have to explain to the county why my car is gone. So how do you avoid getting towed when you don't want to? Well, it's pretty simple. Don't park without permission on private property, which means you need to be aware of your surroundings when you park. But how can you tell if it's private property? Look for signs. By law, the property owner must give you notice, either through a sign or through a ticket before towing. The signs must be conspicuous, posted at the entrance of the parking lot and around the parking areas so you can see them. The signs need to state the parking restrictions, that they are enforced by towing, and also that they have a phone number you can call 24/7 to retrieve your vehicle. If you get towed, the tow company's lot is required to be located within the county and must stay open at least 2 hours after the tow has happened. Also, towing fees are set by the county. A typical private property tow costs about $140. If you feel you've been unjustly towed, please contact us here at the Office of Consumer Protection and we'll look into it.
It is very difficult to select a mattress in this marketplace. There are so many retailers and they offer so many different mattresses and styles. But the problem is that the retailers very rarely call the models the exact same name. So it's hard to do comparison shopping. Now, typically, lying on a mattress is the most common test to determine the kind of mattress that you want. That can be very difficult, and it's not the only determining factor. Then the cost is also a determining factor. But of course, the most expensive mattress is not necessarily the best mattress. Really, the issue is the quality of the mattress. And selecting the quality can be difficult. So to help the consumer make a selection, there's the Consumer Reports magazine, which rates the different kinds of mattresses. And there's also called a magazine, the Sharp Smart magazine, that actually will give unbiased opinion to the kinds of mattresses and how to select and so forth. So those are some resources to use as well. What really brings you into a store to look at a mattress is going to be the advertisement. And there are so many advertisements that you have to be careful about. You think it may be the best deal of the century, and actually it may not necessarily be that. There are a lot of misleading ads. For example, one of the ads to be very careful about is that money-back guarantee. And the money-back guarantee basically says that if you're dissatisfied with this mattress, you can bring it back. But you really need to look at the fine print. The fine print may have that in the terms and conditions that there's a fee to bring it back, or there's a delivery charge, that kind of thing. So you need to be careful. Then you have the continuous sale ad. The continuous sale ad may start with a 4th of July ad, special holidays, Labor Day, Memorial Day. And those advertisements are usually before the sale, that special Labor Day sale or special holiday sale, and after the sale, but it's really a continuous sale. It's no different from that ad being next month to next week, and it's not really a special deal. It's just to draw you in. And then, of course, you have the Traffic Maker mattress. That's when the store advertises a mattress at a particularly low price. Oh, you think you're getting a great deal. But once you get to the store, the salesman will take you to the back of the store, and there's this mattress of inferior quality that no one would want to purchase. So again, it's to draw you into the store. Okay, now you have the competitor's price guarantee. This is a little tricky. Retail sellers boldly advertise that they provide a price guarantee and that they will beat the competitor's price by 25 or 30%. But it's an empty claim. The retail sellers know that mattresses made by the same manufacturers are sold by each different retail store using different product names for each mattress. By being the exclusive seller of each mattress, retail sellers know that a competitor will never sell the same mattress by the same name, so they will never have to honor their guarantee. If you do come in based on an advertisement, you want to bring that advertisement with you. You want to ask the salesman to explain the terms and conditions of that advertisement. That's very important. And again, what's important to emphasize is that you want to lie on that mattress as long as you can. You want to compare it with another mattress so that you can determine if this may be the mattress that you're interested in, that may accommodate your needs.
So that's it for this edition of Consumer Compass. If you have a consumer question, complaint, or problem, don't hesitate to call our office or check out our website. Many of the common consumer issues are listed there, along with contact numbers, web links, videos, and more. I'm Eric Friedman. Thanks for watching.
All right, 2 minutes for straight face.
Let alone recover their investment and earn a substantial business income. Oh. Oh.
Recently, we had help. Check out what happened. Check out what happened. Check out what happened.
Hi, Eric. Hey. Good morning.
That worked.
Most of us are familiar.
Okay. Per every 10 miles. I get to the end there and it's 10 miles per hour.
We'll start all over. The Maryland Home Improvement Act requires that anyone engaged in the business of okay, here we go again. Hold on a second, Chris. Okay.
Mr. Numbers, it's time for a fire drill. You must get out of the building.
Jim, I've got to go. I've got to go. There's a fire drill in the building. They're throwing me out. I'll talk to you, but yeah. Bye-bye.
Have a fire drill. Thank you, good sir.